Welcome back, everyone. I'm happy to see so many people stick around till the very end. So this is a session where we are hoping to sort of brainstorm where we're taking this next. First, a couple of announcements. The first one is that a number of people have asked us for certificates of participation. So if you would like to have a certificate of participation, please let Sarah know and we'll be happy to prepare one for you. The second announcement is actually an announcement from me, but from one of our participants. I think it was Dagmara. Yes, it was Dagmara. So let me make sure. No, I cannot do that. Sarah has to do that. Sarah, can you make sure that she can share her screen? And Dagmara, are you here? Yeah, I see you in the participant list.
Yes, I am.
You wanted to announce an upcoming program, so please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the organizers for invitation to this meeting. I must say I really enjoyed the week and I enjoyed being here. I learned a lot and I think that we have already established a very nice group, even professional learning community, I would say. So I thought that maybe it would be nice to announce you something that it can serve as a kind of extension of this meeting. So in the upcoming 4 months, we organize 2 events in Europe. And for the last 10 years, I've been involved in inquiry-based learning and mostly through the European projects. And one of the project is just about to finish. So I'm going to share my screen, I hope. This is the screen. Does it work for you?
Yes, I
Does it
can
work for
see
you?
your
Okay.
screen. Yes.
So the first event is organized and there is no fee for attendance in that. So this is a kind of final international conference for a project that was on 3 dimensions of inquiry in physics education. And the core of the event will be presentations of our teachers who did practitioner inquiry in inquiry-based lessons. So that's the most valuable part. So I invite you very much because first of all, it's for free, but you can learn a lot from teachers, that the testimony from teachers to teachers. That's very much important. The second meeting, oh wait, is organized, and that's another webinar. It's organized by the University of Malta and by GIRB organization, which is the largest organization on physics research in Europe. And we cooperate with American Association of Physics Teachers. The event will be held in November, and it's totally on teacher education. So the title is Physics Teacher Education, What Matters? And I will show you, there are many topics there, and it will be a kind of seminar. So topics, I will show you the topics. So it's ICT, experiments in lab, quantum mechanics, formal, non-formal, and informal aspects of physics education in primary level. That's mine topic. Strategies for pre-service teachers and in-service teachers. So welcome everybody. Unfortunately for this event, there is a fee, 40 euro, but anyway, I think it's all for teachers and for sharing, mostly sharing. So I will be very happy to see you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dagmara. I've been to GREP a number of times. It's a
Hello.
great meeting, so I can highly recommend it. And I guess this one is virtual, right? It's going to be
Yes.
on Zoom, if I saw
Yeah.
that correctly. What about the Ljubljana meeting? Is that virtual or is that
It's very all 2 of them are webinars, so
two
they
of
are
them are webinar?
virtual. Yes, we still have COVID in Europe, so that's
Right,
why.
right. I understand. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you so much for sharing it
Thank you very much.
with us. So I think that it would be good if Krastan briefly shared some of his thoughts and some of the history behind what led to this virtual workshop in order to frame the discussion. I also want to run a very brief poll online here, which I'll do right after after we hear from Krastan.
Okay, so it's been fantastic. I think for 4.5 days. I don't think we expected this kind of great meeting. So let me give you a short history. I started with that history, but let me start from my program more than from the actually how this meeting came about. So when I came to NSF 13 years ago, I discovered there is a program which has been existing for about 20 years, and it's called a career program. And so these are grants given to tenure track professors, and essential part of their projects, these are 5-year grants, essential part of their projects is that they have to have a very strong educational component. And those teachers, these assistant professors, usually try to go to local schools and work with local teachers and school students and local principals to bring somehow something new to the university, to the high school. And this has been very successful. And of course, you can imagine that most of the grants are at big universities because they're more competitive. But for example, Harvard has a special office and a special program where such career awardees can go and work with that office to connect them to local schools. And of course, it's easy to do it in Boston. You have a lot of local schools and you have a lot of universities. And so that's working fine. But what can we do actually to reach high schools that are actually not in Boston or New York City or San Francisco? So this was my first question. How do we do that? And so in the past year, and specifically the past week, I've been thinking more and more that we need to have a concerted effort to connect these people that we give money every year for doing education at universities, to connect in a realistic way, in an organized way, in a way of making actually difference to a broad range of high schools. Roughly, the physics division funds about 50 career proposals every year. So over 5 years, that makes 250 people that are actually having this money. In addition, all of our PIs at universities also have, so NSF awards grants based on 2 criteria. One is intellectual merit, which is the research part, and the other one is the broader impact. And the broader impact very often is actually education. So now we are talking about another thousands of researchers that actually have as their broader impact statement in their grants, education. Now, in addition, a lot of these PIs, what they usually propose is that their graduate students will get involved with local schools. Again, this is not really done in an organized way. This is person to person and whether they're willing or not. But I see that besides somebody coming and teaching a Saturday school for high school girls in physics, I think that it will be much better if actually these efforts address what teachers think it's important to be done, not what the university professor thinks it's important to be done for them. So why don't we try to think in the next months through our network, creating this network, how can we actually engage the university professors in a meaningful way to help the teachers who are eventually and at the end of the day responsible for teaching the students? It's not the university professor that is responsible for that. And so they pick and choose whatever is easy for them or they want to do. But actually to have but they are given resources by our foundation to engage in education.
I don't know, Creston. I'm learning from them more than they can teach them.
That's right. So absolutely. So we need to somehow, through our network, streamline this thing. Now, the idea about the network came from somewhere else. When I started this program, Physics of Living Systems at NSF, it was very clear within the first 6 months that there are graduate students at different universities that don't have the resources that they need to do their research, but other universities had those resources. So the question was, can we create some kind of a national and international network where people can share resources from one university with students from another university? And we created the so-called, and Jose Onuchik and Eric were one of the founders, the so-called Physics of Living Systems Graduate Student Network. So this was for graduate students. And right now, we're funding that network at the order of about $5 million a year. And it also involves a number of other countries. Right now we have about 11 countries involved: France, Germany, and India, and so forth. And I will share in a second the link, or maybe Jose can share the link of the POSE network at Rice University with everyone.
I'll do that
So now
now.
the question, I'm sorry, Jose? Yeah, can
I'll
you share?
do that right now.
Thank you. So now the question is, we have this, for example, annual meetings where 250 graduate students give presentations and talks and stuff like that. How can we involve these graduate students in helping the teachers network? So can we have the two networks linked to each other? So actually resources from the one of the networks can be shared with the other network. And I'm sure that, and I can assure you, Jose is the leader actually of the United States part of the network, that there is big interest in that collaboration. Also, Margaret is the one that's organizing a big meeting in September to try to understand how we can help. And so let's discuss in the next, for the rest of the day, what can a network like this, how can it be organized? What are the things that are needed? I actually don't know. That's why I've been asking and listening, what are the needs of the teachers so that they can educate their high school students better?
So Creston, you were talking, so you can't read the chat at the same time.
Oh, sorry.
But no need to apologize. I can't do that either. Nobody can. But there was a whole discussion, and I think Jennifer Mosher raised a point that I think would be great to bring to the forefront, because it actually reinforces what you were saying. So Jennifer, I presume that's why you have your hand up right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hope you can hear me. I had to change locales. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's my son's first baseball game, so I'm in the outfield. I was thinking, it would be great if somehow for these kinds of grants, if you could get a bunch of teachers together with the group, the research group, and maybe work on developing a project or a few questions together, and then have the teachers collect the data, and maybe the university can take point on analyzing it, but with help, right, from teachers, and everybody would learn more that way, maybe, and build networks too.
Yeah. So this network could be a resource for people who are going to write a grant proposal to us as a career proposal or as a PI on a grant. So if they want to get engaged, if we supply them a resource where they can work with teachers, this would be very, very helpful for them. And I think it could be very helpful for the teacher community.
Yeah, I think as Jose pointed out, it works both ways. This is not, higher ed helping high school. It's really higher ed learning from high school and
Right.
and working together to accomplish a goal that's very important. I really liked what Jose said. I have learned a lot in this week, and I'm happy that I'm not alone in having this feeling. I see, and by the way,
Eric, sorry.
in the chat, Jennifer, before we go to in the chat, Jennifer had actually said it'd be great to have a connection between the graduate students,
yes,
and the high school teachers. And when you and I talked, we were brainstorming about ideas before, Krastan, I think that was one of the, because the Pulse Network is a graduate student network, this would be a really natural thing to do.
And
So,
also look in the chat.
Can I make a comment here?
Let me just, Jose, just let me say. So just look in the chat. Margie Dieter just put her name there. She's actually the coordinator of the graduate student network. So Jose is a professor at Rice University who is the PI on the grant, but Margie is actually the person also doing a lot of the work.
So just a fast comment of what Eric said. We have our summer program where we put students coming from underrepresented universities come to our center, and using what Eric said, we don't let them directly, we always put the graduate student or postdoc working with them, because then you can, there's a one-to-one collaboration, and then that sort of links to the together with the professor. I think a similar thing as a summer program or yearly program with some teachers in high school can be an interesting thing to be done, and can be a two-way. But I think Eric's idea to sort of include, and that the amazing thing that we have with the graduate students and postdocs is that we don't make them they don't have to participate. It's a voluntary program. And we have like a 80% participation. They all want to join. They all want an undergrad to work with them in the summer. Becomes a real bond. And Margaret runs the program. She's here. She can comment a little bit about it. She's responsible for the program in the center, so she can tell a little bit about it.
Thank you, Jose. I think we have some great consensus emerging here on how we may be able to, do two things at once. Michael, you've had your hand up patiently. Please unmute yourself. You're still muted.
Sorry about that. Really, the best way to add value is through the standards, and the standards are a unifying agent for anybody to be able to link the value added that they can offer to other teachers. So when I say value added, I mean universities have access to the best possible equipment, all they can need. If there's a way to make that rapidly, remotely deliverable in a way that a teacher can quickly understand how they can implement it to their target students, that's really the key is time savings for teachers. Teacher time is worth more than money right now, because that's what's going to leverage outcomes. There's no doubt, the only way to make it happen is for the teacher to make it happen for those students. So really we have to put that teacher on a pedestal and organize around the path of least resistance for them. And that's not to say do their job for them, that's to say make everything available so that they can put the pieces together and turn it into a multimodal deliverable experience that they can give to their students remotely.
Rob, thank you, Michael. I'm going to give the floor to Rob, and then we're basically going to run a very quick poll on Zoom just to see where people's needs and interest are, and then we'll continue this discussion organically. There's no set format or schedule. Rob.
I was just going to say, I saw it in the chat, so I figured I'd bring it up. Are we going to make a form to get everybody's kind of feedback that may not be interested? Because I can put one together. Isa says yes, so I'm going to go with it. So I'll put a form in here, or you're going to do it?
I already did it. I already have it.
Perfect.
I just, we were going to send this after like the larger discussion, since we understand that not everybody can contribute. Also, some of us need just more time to process. We've had a lot of information. And so we have a form that is open-ended in addition to the poll that Eric's gonna administer right now. But we have a poll and we're giving everybody time until the end of the week, as in next Friday, to complete it. But that's coming and it's open-ended.
Right, so the poll that we put together this morning based on the discussions that emerged. I asked Isa to look at the whiteboard from yesterday, to look at the chat, to look at the discussions that went on in Slack. So we tried to, in order to come up with some kind of a numerical measure and for prioritizing ideas, we put together that poll, which is very constraining because it's completely multiple choice. And then in addition, that's just to shape the conversation this afternoon. And then the form that Isa just mentioned is completely open-ended. You can put down whatever you want there. And it'll take a little bit of time to, of course, process all of that. But we also want to give you a little bit more time to digest everything, because this has been quite an intense week. I've been glued to my computer from the morning to the evening without being able to leave it. And look, we're still at 92 participants. It's absolutely amazing. I'm truly so impressed and so incredibly grateful to all of you for putting in so much energy and enthusiasm. So I'm going to open the poll and we'll take about a minute to complete it. So there we go. There should be a poll visible on the screen. Please, can I get a thumbs up if it's there? Okay, good. So you have to scroll because there are 7 questions in total. And then you need to hit the submit button at the very bottom. And then when the majority of people have inputted their answers, I'll close the poll and share the results so that we can all see what the sort of most pressing needs and ideas are. And then we'll start talking about next steps. I just realized that one question that I did not put on the poll, but that well, I'll shut up so you can think about the answers you want to give.
Is there a reason why high school physics teacher isolation is listed twice? Is one of those supposed to be a different kind of teacher or what?
I said oops several times, but muted, so it didn't come across. That's what happens when you ignore the second one. I'm sorry about that.
You select both, that means you strongly agree.
It's a multiple choice, not a multiple guess, so you can't do that.
I don't think I would get a job at the ETS. Actually, I was on the ETS AP Development Committee for a long time, and I tried to change it. I tried to change the nature of the AP exam. There was like trying to change the direction of a super tanker whose rudder has been removed.
The submit button doesn't work on the form, I'm noticing.
If you might
answers.
You
What's
have to
that?
answer every question.
You haven't finished all the questions.
4 or 5 questions. Keep rolling down.
I did. I got all the way down to question 7.
Did you skip one?
But each question has to have at least one answer.
Okay, sorry. My least favorite aspect, I'll say none. I was just not checking them. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Friday afternoon. I know. That's probably why I put this. It's high school teacher isolation in there twice. And I see some other suggestions in the chat. Yeah, you can select more than one on question 1, question 3, and question 4.
Yeah, it's not all multiple choice.
So what they call multiple choice there is actually many choice, and what we would normally call multiple choice is single choice. Diana would have liked more small group discussion, and I realized that. It's definitely something that when, blame that on inexperience in setting up meetings like this. And I will definitely make sure that the next time we get together, whether it's in person or virtual, that we do that.
So I just wanted to say one thing that I've been thinking since yesterday. We were supposed to have an in-person meeting in December, which is not going to happen. But I think that everybody's so excited about what's happening here. Shouldn't we plan another Zoom virtual meeting in December?
Yeah, so Kristan, you almost read my mind. Because I was thinking, just as I was opening this poll, or actually while you were making your introductory remarks, I need to add another question to this poll, but unfortunately, Zoom doesn't let you edit a poll that you've already tested once. But I was thinking, maybe virtual has a benefit. I mean, look what we've been able to accomplish. Maybe there is actually a benefit to having this virtual because it makes it possible for many more people to participate. So I was thinking, should we continue virtual? Is this the way forward? Is this the new reality?
And you have the money, you can organize another 10 virtual meetings.
Probably,
So,
yes.
I would say,
Wait, I gotta come to home so I can get my polo shirt.
I would say there's an advantage about in-person meetings, because people talk to each other. There's several advantages. But even if we have an in-person meeting, we should have a strong virtual component. So we could have, even if when the in-person meeting, we could allow for virtual participants.
But I'm not suggesting to cancel the meeting in March in person. I'm just saying to keep things going fast, to have another, in addition to the March meeting, to have one in December.
Yeah, Dagmar has an interesting suggestion to make shorter virtual meetings, 1 to 2 days, and have those more regularly, which actually would provide more continuity.
That would be a great idea.
Right?
That's a great idea.
I mean, I think that's a very good idea. I'm trying to keep up with the chat. There are a lot of great ideas there. So we have 85 of the 88 participants who have submitted. I know that there are a couple of us who cannot vote because we're a host or co-host and we can't vote. So if you are still working and you haven't hit the submit button and you want a little bit more time, raise your hand in the participant list so that I don't cut you off and close the poll. Or unmute your microphone and say, please wait a second. Otherwise, in 30 seconds, I'm going to close the poll.
In the meantime, I'll just mention one thing. A couple of the breakout rooms that I went to, we were unclear what we were supposed to do when we got there, and we had 5 people looking at each other going, what are we supposed to? And maybe if there was a slide that would come up that just had a simple, like, here's the question, then everybody can remain focused. And we had productive conversations anyway, but, just.
Absolutely, that's a very good point. So what Catherine did in her last session was helpful, was that discussion point document. Or were you actually, Matthew, were you referring to the last breakout room?
It happened to me a few times over the course of the week.
Okay, good. Sarah, maybe we can make a note of that. That's a good lesson to be learned. Okay, I don't see the count going up. This is your last 5 seconds to scream wait. Otherwise, I'm going to hit end poll here and share the results, and then we can quickly look at what we can learn from this quick poll. 3, 2, 1, and I'm closing the poll.
So what we do
I'm
also
going
in
to
the
share
poll-
the results. Sorry, do you see the results?
Yes.
We could quickly look. So there's a pretty broad distribution of needs. This looks, and maybe that's not that surprising because what we wrote down there is really, you know, culled from the discussions that we had this week. So there's not one clear emergent thing. I mean, curriculum together with ready-to-use lessons and labs, and there's some overlap between those two, are at the top of the pack. And that means that perhaps indeed some kind of, and look, a lot of the things that you do, I learned a lot, just like Jose. I learned a lot about things I can do in my class. I'm thinking about my introductory class and about how to run online labs, how to have students do meaningful exercises. And I'm going to spend this weekend going over all the many links that you shared, and I already printed out some of them right here, because I think this is very useful. So essentially some of the problems that you have at the high school, we have at the college as well. And therefore working together is bound to help both parties. So
I would
that's
suggest
maybe
also, Eric, so we do in the Pulse Network, we now do virtual seminars. I think that we should set weekly or bi-weekly for people who want to participate, and maybe volunteers who would like to talk. Several topics could be pedagogy, or it could be actually how do you teach a given topic in physics.
okay. That's. I'm perfectly happy to do that if people think that's a great idea. I see some
Or
thumbs up
monthly, doesn't
there.
matter.
That would be very easy, and I would run it that it's relatively short, that the presentation is like 20 minutes, and that there's ample room after that to discuss, so that, you know, if you don't want to discuss, you just attend the 20 minutes, and then the total time investment is relatively minimum. It would be great to have that. I don't think we can do that every week. I see many people scream monthly.
Sure.
So turning to question 2, I'm scrolling here because I haven't looked yet. I'm very happy to see that the majority is either satisfied or very satisfied. That's wonderful. That's music to my ears. And I had high expectations, but this far exceeded my expectations. And looking at the number of participants who remained online, that's fairly become fairly clear to me. So that's great. What I also am very pleased about is that for question 3, the sense of community, because that I think is so important, and that we've been able to accomplish this online together, you and us all. That's just cool. So we have a budding community here, and we'll do everything we can to make that community stronger, larger, and persisting. And then what were your least favorite aspects? Well, the posters, we had a little glitch there, but most people were happy with everything. 67% said none. That's great. How likely are you to attend similar workshop in the future? Again, I think most people will definitely come. That's great. That's lovely. And then also quite a few people are actually interested in embedding physics of living systems, which is not quite what Catherine was talking about. How did she call it again? Living physics. Paul's is, I think, a slightly broader network than Catherine's, and maybe leveraging the existing Paul's network to maintain this community. And it would by no means have to be exclusively that every single activity we talk about is within the framework of living systems. So that might be a way to think about maintaining the momentum that we've built up. Great.
I need to say, Eric, sorry to say something.
Yeah.
I have disseminated this conference to all my colleagues in the physics division at NSF. We have 14 programs that cover everything from quantum gravity all the way to atomic physics and biological field, physics of living systems. And everybody is really, really excited about this meeting. And everybody has, we're going to have special activities in physics to address broadening participation, inclusion, and so forth, starting in September. And so it's going to be effort in all areas of physics, not just living system, just to second Eric.
Great, great. Thank you for that clarification. And I know that some NSF people were in and out, right? Some of your colleagues. Since I don't know them, I could not identify them. But so, anybody have thoughts about next steps? I already see maybe a monthly seminar. Definitely repeating this meeting. December is not a good time because it's a busy time. I sort of picked it up from the chat. Kristan, you were mentioning March, but you probably mean June or July, right? After the school year.
Well, yeah. So there were several different versions that we, but I think for the teachers will be easier in the summer and for you and probably for everyone. So let's say a year from now, or for the in-person meeting, right?
Right.
But for the virtual meeting, I think we could have one in December, or as they said, maybe we have every 3 months one that is shorter.
Right, right. Anybody else have any suggestion? I don't want to monopolize the floor here. Yes.
As long we are going to keep it virtual, it's better to have more often and shorter. That tends to keep the community. Normally you want to do a long meeting when people have to travel, right? That's one of the reasons why you do very, very long meetings. But by being virtual, you actually can afford to do more shorter meetings. And also if someone has some conflict, they don't lose everything. They lose one of the short meetings, but they can still keep track of the entire situation. So it's something for you to think about, Eric. I'm just also learning on to live on this Zoom world. I always told people that in 2020, if I don't die from COVID, I'll get blind by the end of the year by being on the computer all the time. But
yeah, but yeah. So people, yeah. So we can start doing every 3 months 2-day meeting.
Yep.
And the other thing is, I think that, I don't know if Zoom has a limit, but I would ask all the people that are participating, please let your colleagues that you know in other high schools or in your school about the network. I think that we need to be inclusive and try to reach out as much as possible.
I think the number of people we have here is far from the limit that our universities have on their Zoom agreement. So I don't think we are hitting a limit yet on number of participants.
So Harvard has 300 people apparently.
Yeah, but I noticed at a recent faculty meeting, at a recent town hall meeting after the announcement that Harvard was going to go completely online and the F1 visa debacle, that there were something like 450 people. So I think the limit has been increased. And when I asked Harvard if it would be okay to use their platform for this meeting, they said how many people there are, because if it's more than 300, we need to add something. So it's easily changed. They were ready to increase that limit for us.
Princeton University ran a meeting last month. They had 3,600 participants in one day.
That's right, but they're probably
in a
webinar.
Yeah, so it's webinar, we can go to 10,000.
Oh, I
There's
see.
no problem. Yeah,
I see.
yeah. There's no. It's having everybody, giving participants the ability to have floor time like we all have here, which I think is very important.
But right now, Kristan, we have Margie and Sarah. They know all these limits. They have been working with Harvard, MIT, Rice. We know each university which limit is, but I think, like Eric said, that's not the limiting factor.
In addition to the limits on things like Zoom, remember that budgets are going to be very stretched because of COVID. Tax revenues are down. Every district, state, and country is going to have less money, and it's going to come out of us one way or another, or all of us, I mean. So I think having virtual meetings are far more cost effective. There's no hotel expense, no travel expense, and that's just another advantage of the virtual format.
So for the in-person meeting, Eric has a grant that will cover all of the expenses, including travel and everything else.
Yeah, I was aware of that. So that's what Crosstown and I arranged, but that will mean far fewer people because otherwise it exceeds the budget. Martha had an interesting comment. I'm still trying to keep one eye on the chat here. Martha, do you wanna put that comment in front of everyone here so we can discuss? Because I used to be in charge of a GK-12 grant. I don't know if any of you have worked with the NSF GK-12 program, which was a long time ago. It was a bridge between graduate students and K-12. Kristan, you know about that program?
No, I don't.
Okay, so the NSF used to have, like 20 years ago, a GK-12 program, and the idea was to bridge graduate student education and K-12, and to have graduate students work with teachers in K-12 education to involve graduate students in the problem of, building a better base for STEM education in general, and to help teachers in K-12 address a shortage of teachers. And that went on for about 3 funding cycles, and then the whole program was cut. The benefit of that program was that it provided resources not only for the graduate students, it supported their stipend and their studies, but it also supported resources for the schools, which I think is a point that Martha wants to bring up. So having said that, I'll cede the floor to you.
Yeah, so what I was raising in the chat, I heard some talk about maybe shooting for meetings every 3 months and making them like 2 days long. What my mind went straight to is that would not be doable for me if they were 2 weekdays every 3 months. Just because even during distance learning, if I had a day where I was not available to my students, I was still required to take a personal day or a sick day, or otherwise get it approved. When my district or my building does have a staff development fund, which that actually puts me ahead of a lot of people. But I know if I went to them and I said, all right, I need 6 days over the course of the school year, they'd tell me, you know what, we can't spend all of our funds on you. We need to spend some on other people as well. And I probably would not be able to get that much coverage on top of just the logistical challenges of having sub-plans for that many days a year while trying to keep my kids on track on top of any that I need to miss for other reasons. And so I think that's just the realities of pulling teachers out of their classroom is something that needs to be important when we're talking about PD that is meant to serve high school teachers.
To address the question of Eric, so there has been friction since I'm aware of, between NSF and the Department of Education. And the friction is that Department of Education believes that in terms of education, they should be the ones in charge. And NSF has been, has gone in the direction of physics that is researching education rather than education itself. So the reason, and this is very important for me because we can only do so much at NSF without stepping in the shoes of Department of Education and then running into problems. So in that sense, I really think that the good way to think about it is that we are actually trying to help physics education, which is important for physics, but at the same time also understand the research aspects of educating physicists, or not physicists, but physics students.
So Martha has a very good point in the chat, which is, what is the goal of the network? Maybe we can spend a little bit of time. I actually am starting a Google Doc, which I'm going to share so everybody can jot down. We can try to collectively sort of come up with, what's the goal? What do we really want to do? But for some reason, my Google Doc is not hitting the share button and it's thinking forever. But maybe that's a good way to think about the problem is what is it that the goal is once we've in our minds formulated and reach at least some consensus on the goal. Maybe we can work backwards from that goal and ask ourselves, what can we do in order to accomplish that goal? I think that's a good way of approaching the problem. So maybe we'll use the chat until I manage to share my document here. Oh, I need to name it before sharing it. That is it. Goals of the network. So please use the chat or open your microphone and say, this is what I think the network should be. Okay.
I like the suggestion of bite-sized topics, but I think there needs to be at least one a year where it's general, because then we'll get exposure to things we might not have even known were available. If I'm interested in labs and I only go to a seminar on labs, I might not hear about equity.
Okay, thank you. Here is the document. So anybody who wants to co-edit the goals of the network, jump in. But let's do, like, if we jump in all at the same time, it's going to be messy. So maybe we want to have a discussion at the same time. I think that's the right approach, to think first is what is the objective? And then once we have the objectives, we can think, what do we need to do in order to accomplish that objective?
So actually, Eric, I was thinking about that and what Kristan said, and I think the goal for us should actually be the opposite. And first and foremost, it should be the action, and that should stem from the actionables, as opposed to kind of thinking the other way, where we're getting the actionables and being the action, right? I think first and foremost is that kind of action, which I think for me, what the network has shown is there's a lot of problems that we've all kind of have similar, or rather we all have problems that are similar at all levels of education that haven't been targeted. And so one thing that we might want to do is to continue that growth of what are these problems, how are we fixing it in one place, and how can we transmit that to another, instead of just making a list and not being that, I think it was Kristan or somebody said it before, where it's we make the list and then it gets posted, sort to say.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this conversation, we'll continue this conversation using this form that Isa announced, and we're going to collect ideas. And I also realize, we've been here in front of our computers for a full week, so we're reaching the low point in our energy, and I'm not going to make this drag on. We'll probably finalize this relatively soon. I want to be sure, though, that I give an opportunity to those people who have not yet had an opportunity to have their voices heard to speak up. Terry, I saw your hand was up, but I consider you in the camp of people we've already heard from. I'd love to hear from somebody who has not yet taken the floor. Please raise your hand if you feel so inclined. Maksuda. You have your hand up, but you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I was reading through the chat and hearing everything everyone was saying, and I think, so what I'm understanding is Marta is asking what the overall bigger goal of the network is, and then how to make it smaller, right? So this is how I'm looking at it. I don't know if it makes sense. Is what if we were to have a more core group, right? And the overall network is, at least for me, the goal was much more to just show that there's a bunch of physics teachers out there from across the world who all kind of have the same issues, and how to just share each other's stories, help each other through it, and provide resources, right? So if we were to be able to, let's say, so that becomes our overarching goal, to provide resources to connect each other. And instead of having all of them become about every topic, if we have an overarching body which says, okay, these are the core people who are going to organize small issues. Like, I think there were like 9 topics you told us to choose from. So maybe in next month, we just focus on curriculum. And then the next one, and all of this can get combined together at the end. And then in a year's time, that can come back as the data point in the national level seminar, or whatever we want to call it. That way, this idea of like they become isolated doesn't exist, because, okay, we had this group of people. These are ones that different people were interested in. This was the accumulation of those smaller workshops. And that way we wouldn't have to attend all of them once a year for some, etc. Like, just something I was thinking about.
I actually like that idea very much, because there's just no way that I can pull this off, and having some of you help out is absolutely essential. So if you're volunteering, and I'm not saying you Maksuda, I mean you, anybody here, then please indicate that to us, either in the form or by an email or via direct message on Slack, because that would be fantastic, right? Because otherwise we're operating in a vacuum. We need you in order to shape this network. You're essential. So that would be great. Thank you for raising that point. Shu Yi, you have your hand up. And then we'll get to Terry, because I don't want to forget about Terry.
So I think one benefit about this workshop is it really brings together such a huge variety of experiences and community across the world. But what also comes up from this experience is there's, just similar to Maksuda just said, there's little pockets of the same issue that comes up over and over again. And I think it will make sense to take some time to go through some of the themes that kind of moves in the next steps. So for example, one of the more powerful message I heard was trying to think about a revolutionary teacher leadership within the district, within the local communities. And another one was, what about this physics for all idea? But I think might not be the form for exploring those in depth, but I think it's a good place to start getting the message out, and maybe partner with, and I said, partner with researchers and working with small groups of teachers in different regions that has kind of that focus to really think about how to push changes. Because I think one thing that kind of struck me was, yeah, I know that. I know that was a problem. I knew that was a problem 15 years ago when I stepped into the classroom, and why is it still the same problem? And I don't see any changes in the bigger level. It's being changed in very individual teachers' classrooms, but how do we get the message out, and how do we get people to start thinking about some solutions for some of these problems that we hear over and over again?
So, yes, I'm tired, says Kathy. I think many of us are tired. So I will adjourn this pretty soon, and we can continue this discussion asynchronously. Terry, please.
Sure. Somebody managed to say that there seemed to be like 2 goals here, and I think that one of the goals where people say, I want resources. I think that's probably the easiest part to do asynchronously, where you can make a little video that presents your resource, you can post it someplace like Slack, and I feel like a conversation can happen virtually that way, and it doesn't have to be live, and that would meet one of sort of the big arching goals that someone commented on.
Mm-hmm. Great. Joanne, please unmute yourself.
So
Yes.
yeah, I just did. Thank you. So I agree with what you said, Terry, about the asynchronous as far as resources, because I do believe there's a lot of resources out there, though I've learned a lot of new ones. I think what somebody had said, and there were a few people who said the same thing. I think one of the biggest challenges, and I think it's been reinforced over and over this week, is the recruitment and retention and qualifications of physics teachers and inspiring others to fall into this fold. I think many of us see the challenges that, and this has come up over and over this week, that a lot of the individuals, whether it be in the administration, parents, colleagues, whatever, don't necessarily see the importance and relevance of teaching physics and having our students take physics. And I think that when we look at this overarching goal or objective that we have, there has to be something that's a big objective, a big goal of how do we maintain this. And then I agree with what many of you have said, that within that, those challenges, this big overarching goal, we have smaller sections that are branched out, working, each one working on something and figuring out how does this all play into what action items can we take and strategies to address that larger objective that we have. And to me, that, again, a huge objective is those challenges of recruitment and retention and the buy-in from everyone. I'm just going to say, on a little side note, I just got a text message from a former student of mine. I'm at an independent school who came in on a breakthrough scholarship. I've managed to stay in touch with him. Is a physics major, and he's been working with me. He's taken a year off from college, working with me at school, and I would love to see him in the classroom. Will he be there? I don't know, but he's recognized the relevance and the importance of physics education, and he's been an inspiration to the students at school to see him come back. That's like a little side note. So I think there's a big issue, but I think we need to separate some of this out. I know I've gone off target here, but we need to separate this out into smaller little pockets and committees. And then, yes, as somebody said, come back together and see where that worked and how that's addressing that overall objective.
Good. Thank you, Joanne. I see also a very active chat here. It's which, is a discussion that we will certainly continue asynchronously. So Diana asked a follow-up question, Costan. What is the volunteer list for?
Are you asking me?
No, I think I don't know, Diana. Can you elaborate on your question there?
Rob put a volunteer list was added to the bottom of the Google Doc, but I didn't know what he was referring to volunteering for.
Oh, okay. So I
can answer
following up on Joanne's question. Okay.
I think it was Veronica had put that she would love to volunteer. And so I kind of jumped on the bandwagon and just added to it and said, hey, we don't have a list for people who want to volunteer yet, but we're discussing it. So we got a spot.
Oh, so this is volunteering for helping getting the network off the ground. Is that correct?
Seems like it.
Okay, good. I'm going to add that clarification to the Google Doc. I see a lot of people are editing the Google Doc. That's great. I had not looked at it for a moment. Costan, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I was just saying that one action item is to create a resource that lists all resources. We've heard so many websites, so many different things here from different people. It would be good to have all of these things at one place, and somehow organized.
Yeah, organized would be important, so people know how to use the resource in a smart way.
Right.
Can we create our own website? I mean, putting a website together is very simple.
There will be a website. There will be a Facebook page. There will be the Slack. So we're thinking of all of these things as different platforms for different purposes.
So could the
I nominate Veronica to put the website together.
That's what I'm volunteering for. I just need some money
Good.
because you know websites aren't free. Give me a budget.
We should be
Yeah.
able to pay for the creation of all these things.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm having trouble following all the different threads, the chat, the Google Doc, which I ignored for a moment. Anything else people would like to put on the table or discuss before we adjourn? And I will adjourn a little bit early, but I think that's perfectly fine. Time is valuable. And I'm happy to.
I want to say one thing before, because I might not have that chance. I really want to thank Eric for organizing this. I really want to thank Isa and Sarah and Kelly. It's been fantastic.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
It's been fantastic.
I was going
Thank
to
you
say
so
we
much.
should really give a big shout out to Sarah and Kelly for all the logistics, for Isa helping brainstorm all of the ideas, and for keeping me on track. Thank you so much. And above all, Kristan, where the whole idea originated, and of course, most importantly, all of you, because without you, there'd be nothing. So I think this is probably a good time to close here. I agree, Kristen. It's been a fantastic week. I literally, I'm scared to look at my email because, you know, normally when I'm in a meeting, at an in-person meeting, I occasionally open my laptop and catch up with my email. My laptop has been open all the time, but I haven't looked at the email at all. I don't know about you, so I'm way behind. But that's only due to the fact that this has been so incredibly stimulating and exciting. And yes, it's the end of a great workshop, but as always, the end of something is the beginning of something new. So I'm greatly looking forward to continuing our conversation on Slack and via other means. And I also look very much forward to having the opportunity to meet you all in person one day. So thank you all so much. It's been a fantastic, yes, we're saving the chat. So I see that question come by. Sarah is diligently taking care of that. And I hope you all stay well in this sort of uncertain future, that your school will be able to cope with this pandemic, and most of all, that we're all managed to accomplish our goal of educating the next generation, because that's what we all, you and I and Kristan and everybody else here, is about. So thank you all so much. It's been an absolutely wonderful week.
Thank you, Eric.
See you. Goodbye and be well.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.